Walking into the grocery store these days feels like stepping into a financial minefield. What used to be a routine errand now leaves you stunned at the checkout, wondering how your money seems to stretch less and less. But these skyrocketing prices aren't random. From global supply chain disruptions to inflation and resource shortages, there's a web of hidden factors driving up the cost of your everyday essentials. Decisions made behind closed doors are quietly reshaping the affordability of the items we once took for granted. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll uncover the real reasons behind these shocking price hikes and what they mean for your wallet and your next meal. Let's dive into the 12 everyday groceries that are climbing higher than ever. Chocolate. From everyday treat to rare indulgence. Chocolate, once a beloved and affordable indulgence, is now becoming a luxury that many are starting to think twice about. The rising cost of chocolate isn't just a result of general inflation, it's deeply tied to the challenges facing the cacao industry. Cacao beans, the essential ingredient in chocolate, are under significant threat due to a combination of unpredictable weather patterns, crop diseases, and political instability in key producing regions like Ivory Coast and Ghana. These countries are responsible for the majority of the world's cacao supply, and when their harvests decline, the ripple effects are felt globally. But the story doesn't end with cacao. Chocolate production also relies on other ingredients like sugar, milk, and nuts, all of which have seen their own price hikes due to inflation and supply chain disruptions. Sugar prices have surged as a result of poor harvests in major producing countries, while milk and dairy products have been impacted by rising feed costs for livestock. Nuts, often used in premium chocolate varieties, have also become more expensive due to climate challenges in regions where they are grown. To cope with these rising costs, chocolate manufacturers are left with two options: increase prices or reduce product sizes. Many have opted for the latter, a tactic known as shrinkflation, where the packaging remains the same, but the amount of chocolate inside quietly decreases. Shoppers often don't notice until they unwrap their favorite bar and realize it's smaller than they remember. Chocolate's rising cost is more than just a blow to dessert lovers. It's a reflection of the fragile balance between agriculture, global trade, and consumer demand. It highlights how interconnected our food systems are and how even a simple treat can become a symbol of larger economic and environmental challenges. 2. Oats. The humble grain facing big challenges. Oats, long celebrated as a nutritious and budget-friendly staple, are no longer the affordable pantry item they once were. The rising cost of oats is tied to the same factors affecting other grains: skyrocketing fertilizer prices, erratic weather patterns, and transportation bottlenecks. Farmers are struggling to keep up with these challenges, and the result is higher prices for consumers at the grocery store. But there's another layer to the story of oats. In recent years, oats have become a key ingredient in the booming plant-based food industry, particularly in products like oat milk. As more consumers turn to plant-based alternatives for health or environmental reasons, the demand for oats has surged. This increased demand has stretched the supply chain thin, driving up prices even further. What was once a humble grain used primarily for porridge and baking is now a hot commodity in the alternative dairy market. The rising cost of oats is a wake-up call for families who rely on them as a cost-effective and healthy meal option. For many, oats have been a go-to for breakfast or a versatile ingredient in recipes. But as prices climb, they're becoming less accessible to those on tight budgets. Oats also symbolize a broader trend in the food industry: the intersection of traditional agriculture and modern consumer trends. As more people seek out plant-based options, the competition for resources like oats intensifies, leading to higher prices for everyone. It's a reminder that even the most basic foods are not immune to the pressures of global markets and shifting consumer preferences. 3. Bread. The rising cost of a basic staple. Bread, a food that has been a cornerstone of human diets for centuries, is now a glaring example of how inflation and global challenges are impacting everyday essentials. The price of bread is closely tied to wheat, and wheat production has faced significant disruptions in recent years. Global conflicts, severe droughts, and export restrictions in major wheat-producing countries have all contributed to rising wheat prices. When the cost of wheat goes up, the impact on bread prices is almost immediate, and consumers feel the pinch at the checkout. However, wheat is just one piece of the puzzle. The process of making bread involves a range of other costs, from energy and transportation to packaging and additional ingredients like oil and yeast. Each of these factors has seen price increases, creating a perfect storm for bread producers. For small bakeries and large-scale manufacturers alike, these rising costs leave little choice but to pass the burden on to consumers. For many families, bread has always been one of the most affordable and reliable parts of their diet. It's a staple that feeds millions around the world every day. But as prices climb, even this basic food item is becoming a strain on household budgets. The irony is hard to ignore. Bread, a symbol of sustenance and simplicity, is now a reminder of how deeply inflation has infiltrated our daily lives. The rising cost of bread also underscores the vulnerability of global food systems. When something as fundamental as bread becomes more expensive, it's a clear sign that no product is immune to the pressures of climate change, geopolitical tensions, and economic instability. For peanut butter, a staple feeling the squeeze. Peanut butter, long celebrated as an affordable and protein-packed pantry staple, is no longer the budget-friendly option it once was. The rising cost of peanuts, the primary ingredient in peanut butter, is a major factor behind this shift. Climate-related challenges, including droughts and floods in key peanut-growing regions, have led to smaller harvests and higher prices. When the supply of peanuts declines, the cost of peanut butter inevitably rises. But the story doesn't stop with peanuts. The production of peanut butter involves a range of other costs, from processing and packaging to transportation and distribution. Each of these steps has become more expensive in recent years. The cost of glass jars, plastic containers, and even labels has increased, adding to the final price consumers see on store shelves. For decades, peanut butter has been a go-to for families looking for an affordable and versatile food. It's been a staple in school lunches, a quick snack, and a reliable source of nutrition. But as prices rise, many households are finding it harder to justify the cost. What was once a symbol of affordability and convenience is now another reminder of the financial pressures facing consumers. The rising cost of peanut butter also highlights the fragility of global food systems. It's a product that relies on a complex network of agriculture, manufacturing, and logistics, all of which are vulnerable to disruptions. As peanut butter becomes more expensive, it serves as a stark example of how even the most familiar and dependable foods can be affected by global challenges. 5. Instant coffee. The rising cost of convenience. Instant coffee, once the go-to choice for a quick and affordable caffeine fix, is no longer the budget-friendly option it used to be. The root of the issue lies in the coffee bean itself, which is facing mounting challenges due to climate change. Unpredictable rainfall, rising temperatures, and shifting weather patterns have made coffee crops increasingly vulnerable. These environmental pressures have led to smaller and less reliable harvests, driving up the cost of raw coffee beans. Adding to the problem is the ever-growing global demand for coffee. As coffee culture expands into emerging markets, more people are incorporating it into their daily routines. This surge in demand means that the same limited supply of coffee beans must now cater to a much larger audience, creating even more strain on the market. While instant coffee was once seen as the cheaper alternative to specialty or ground coffee, it is now caught in the same inflationary cycle, with prices climbing steadily. The rising costs don't stop at the beans. The production and packaging of instant coffee also contribute to its increasing price. From the energy required to process the beans into soluble coffee to the cost of jars, labels, and transportation, every step of the supply chain has become more expensive. Shoppers who once relied on instant coffee as a convenient and economical option are now finding themselves shocked by how much it costs to keep their pantry stocked. What was once a simple comfort has become yet another example of how global economic and environmental pressures are reshaping the affordability of everyday items. Instant coffee's price surge serves as a reminder that even the smallest luxuries are not immune to the challenges facing our food systems. 6. Rice. The fragile foundation of global meals. Rice, a staple food for billions of people around the world, is no longer the affordable and reliable option it once was. For many, rice is the foundation of daily meals, providing sustenance and nourishment at a low cost. However, recent years have exposed just how vulnerable the global rice supply truly is. Extreme weather events have wreaked havoc on rice production. Floods in Asia, where the majority of the world's rice is grown, and droughts in Africa have significantly reduced harvest. These climate-related challenges have made it increasingly difficult for farmers to produce enough rice to meet global demand. At the same time, several rice-exporting countries have implemented restrictions on shipments to protect their domestic supplies, further tightening the global market and driving up prices. The challenges don't end with the crops themselves. The cost of fertilizer, a critical component of large-scale rice farming, has skyrocketed in recent years. Energy prices, which affect everything from irrigation to transportation, have also surged, making it more expensive to grow and distribute rice. Add to this the ongoing issues with global shipping, such as container shortages and rising fuel costs, and it's clear why rice prices have climbed so dramatically. For families who have long relied on rice as an affordable meal option, these price increases are a harsh reality. What was once a symbol of food security and stability is now a reminder of the fragility of global food systems. The rising cost of rice is particularly alarming because it highlights the deep vulnerabilities in our ability to feed the world. If even the most basic and essential grain becomes unaffordable, the consequences could be devastating for millions. 7. Canned fish. From pantry staple to pricey protein. Canned fish, a longtime pantry staple and affordable source of protein, is undergoing a dramatic transformation as prices continue to rise. The root of the issue lies in the oceans themselves. Overfishing, stricter regulations, and declining fish stocks have made it increasingly difficult to catch enough fish to meet global demand. This scarcity has driven up the cost of raw fish, directly impacting the price of canned products like tuna, sardines, and mackerel. But the rising cost of canned fish isn't just about the fish. The production process involves a range of other expenses that have also increased. The metal used to make cans has become more expensive, as have the oils and sauces often included in canned fish products. Energy costs for processing and preserving the fish have surged, and transportation expenses have added yet another layer of inflation. Even the packaging materials and factory operations contribute to the higher prices consumers are now seeing on store shelves. For decades, canned fish has been a symbol of practicality and reliability. It's a food that lasts for years, making it a go-to option for emergencies or budget-conscious meals. However, as prices climb, even this once affordable protein source is becoming out of reach for many families. The transformation of canned fish from a cheap staple to a pricier option underscores the broader challenges facing the global food industry. The rising cost of canned fish is a stark reminder of how interconnected our food systems are. Environmental pressures, economic challenges, and supply chain disruptions all play a role in reshaping the affordability of even the most basic foods. What was once a dependable and accessible option is now another example of how inflation and scarcity are changing the way we eat. 8. Eggs. The cost of a simple protein. Eggs, long considered one of the most affordable and versatile sources of protein, have recently become shockingly expensive. The primary driver of this price surge has been outbreaks of avian flu, which have devastated poultry populations in multiple countries. Millions of hens have been lost to the disease, leading to a dramatic reduction in egg supply and a corresponding spike in prices. However, the challenges facing the egg industry go beyond disease outbreaks. Rising feed costs have made it more expensive to raise chickens, while higher energy prices have increased the cost of running farms. Transportation expenses, from fuel to logistics, have also added to the final price of eggs. These combined factors have turned what was once a budget-friendly staple into a product that many shoppers now hesitate to buy. Eggs have always been a symbol of simplicity and accessibility. They're a key ingredient in countless recipes and a go-to option for quick, nutritious meals. But their sudden price increase is one of the clearest signs of how global economic and environmental pressures are affecting even the most basic foods. When eggs become expensive, it signals a fundamental shift in the way our food systems operate. It's a reminder that no product, no matter how essential or universal, is immune to the challenges of inflation, disease, and supply chain disruption. The rising cost of eggs is more than just a financial burden. It's a wake-up call about the fragility of our global food supply. 9. Potatoes. The struggle of a global staple. Potatoes, often regarded as one of the most dependable and affordable foods, are now facing a steep climb in price. This humble crop, a cornerstone of diets worldwide, is under siege from a combination of environmental and economic challenges. Droughts and erratic weather patterns in major potato-producing regions have significantly impacted harvests, leading to reduced supplies and higher costs. In some areas, farmers are struggling to grow enough potatoes to meet even local demand, let alone export to global markets. The challenges don't stop at the fields. Potatoes require careful storage to maintain their quality, and this process is heavily reliant on energy. With electricity and fuel prices soaring, the cost of storing potatoes at the right temperature has risen dramatically. These additional expenses are inevitably passed on to consumers, making what was once a cheap and filling food less accessible to many households. Potatoes have long been more than just a side dish. They are a survival food in many cultures, providing essential nutrients and calories at a low cost. Their rising price sends a powerful message about the fragility of global food systems. Even the most basic staples, which have historically been a safety net for families during tough times, are no longer immune to the pressures of climate change and inflation. The potato's journey from field to table now reflects a broader story of global challenges. It's a quiet but significant reminder that even the most reliable foods are becoming harder to afford, reshaping the way we think about food security and accessibility. 10. Jam, a sweet treat under pressure. Jam, a beloved breakfast staple and symbol of comfort, is no longer the affordable indulgence it once was. At its core, jam relies on fruit, and fruit harvests around the world are becoming increasingly unpredictable. Scorching heat waves, unexpected frosts, and destructive storms have wreaked havoc on crops like strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries, fruits that are essential for making jam. As these harvests shrink, the cost of sourcing fruit rises, driving up the price of jam faster than many consumers anticipate. But the challenges don't end with the fruit. Jam production requires large quantities of sugar to achieve its signature sweetness and texture. In recent years, sugar prices have surged due to poor harvests in key producing regions, supply chain disruptions, and rising energy costs in refineries. What was once a cheap and abundant ingredient has now become a significant expense for jam manufacture. Packaging is another factor contributing to the rising cost of jam. Glass jars, metal lids, and labels are all tied to industries heavily impacted by fuel and raw material costs. As these expenses climb, they add yet another layer of inflation to the final product. For many, jam has always been a small luxury, an affordable way to add a touch of sweetness to everyday life. Its rising price feels symbolic, highlighting how even foods tied to comfort and nostalgia are not immune to the forces of inflation. Every jar of jam now tells a story of fragile harvests, global markets, and the growing cost of simple pleasure. 11. Wheat flour, the foundation of global diets. Wheat flour, the backbone of countless diets around the world, is facing unprecedented price increases. This essential ingredient, used in everything from bread and pasta to pastries and noodles, is under immense pressure as wheat production faces repeated disruptions. Climate change has brought devastating droughts, unpredictable rainfall, and extreme weather events that have significantly reduced wheat harvests. At the same time, geopolitical conflicts and export restrictions in major wheat-producing regions have further tightened global supply. The challenges don't stop at the fields. Turning raw wheat into flour is an energy-intensive process that involves milling, storage, and transportation. With fuel and electricity prices surging, the cost of producing and distributing flour has risen sharply. Packaging and logistics add even more to the final price, leaving no room for flour to remain the affordable staple it once was. The ripple effects of rising flour prices are far-reaching. Not only does a bag of flour cost more, but so does every product that depends on it, from bakery items to packaged foods. This has a direct impact on households, restaurants, and food industries, all of which are grappling with higher costs. What makes this situation particularly alarming is the role flour plays in global food security. Unlike luxury goods, flour is a fundamental building block of diets worldwide. Its rising cost is not just an economic issue, it's a warning sign that even the most basic and essential foods can no longer be taken for granted. 12. Bottled water. The price of convenient, bottled water, often seen as one of the simplest and most accessible products, has become a surprising symbol of inflation's reach. While water itself is abundant, the process of producing bottled water involves far more than just filling a container. The plastic used for bottles and caps is derived from petroleum, and with oil prices climbing, the cost of manufacturing these materials has risen significantly. The bottling process is also energy-intensive, requiring substantial amounts of electricity and fuel. Transportation adds another layer of expense, as bottled water must be shipped from production facilities to stores, often over long distances. These rising costs are compounded by the growing global demand for bottled water. Many consumers prefer it over tap water for its convenience, perceived safety, and portability. Health-conscious trends have further expanded the market, particularly for premium brands offering glass bottles or water sourced from exotic locations. As demand continues to outpace supply, the price of bottled water has steadily climbed. What was once a simple and affordable necessity is now a product that many consumers are starting to view as a luxury. This transformation highlights one of the greatest ironies of our time. A resource essential to human survival is now packaged, branded, and sold at increasingly higher prices. Bottled water's rising cost serves as a stark reminder of how inflation and global challenges can impact even the most basic necessity. It's no longer just about hydration. It's about the growing financial strain on everyday life and the complex systems that bring even the simplest products to market. The rising prices of these 12 everyday groceries, chocolate, oats, bread, peanut butter, instant coffee, rice, canned fish, eggs, potatoes, jam, wheat flour, and bottled water, paint a sobering picture of the challenges facing our global food system. Each item tells a unique story of how climate change, supply chain disruptions, inflation, and shifting consumer demands are reshaping the way we eat and shop. What were once affordable staples and small comforts are now becoming symbols of a larger economic and environmental crisis. These price hikes are not just numbers on a receipt, they're a reflection of the fragile balance between agriculture, global trade, and consumer needs. As we navigate these changes, it's clear that the cost of food is no longer just about what we pay at the checkout. It's about the interconnected systems that bring these products to our tables and the growing pressures they face. Understanding these challenges is the first step toward finding solutions, whether through sustainable practices, smarter consumption, or supporting policies that address the root causes of these rising costs. The next time you walk through the grocery store, remember that every price tag tells a story, one that connects us all to the broader forces shaping our world.